outro isn't nearly as cool as the intro to the first game. I'm giving a sin here because this game's title reminds me of when I was in a group chat with a bunch of idiots who would keep annoying me about this game and said I played it all the time just because it took me about a month to beat this game. N64ception. Kongo hasn't thought to maybe blow up the rock or hijack a crane to remove it or something. Then again, what do I expect from a guy who looks like an avocado monster? This cuckoo bird is still bigger than the hole it comes out of. Cheating. I don't remember this giant pile of rocks in Spiral Mountain. Earlier when we saw Banjo's cards, he had a 2 of spades and the jack of clubs. Then Bottles has them too? What kind of deck are these guys using? I was told that these decks of cards only have 1 of each. I was told that the skinny witch of the 2 had a name that is actually a sexual innuendo, but first off, it's one that no one will get. Second off, making us think of that with an old hag is disgusting enough to give 10 sins. Come on, Kazooie, you weren't scared of the dark when you were at Mad Monster Mansion. Royston really needs a bigger bowl. Also, is he not anthropomorphic like the other animals in this universe? Gruntilda's sisters must really know how to use magic if this boulder was phased through the ground for a little bit. Why do we need an old hag upskirt shot? If Gruntilda was reduced to a skeleton, how does she have the strength to pull herself out of the hole? If Gruntilda's eye can fall out now, how does it stay in place throughout the game? And how does she blink with her skull eyes? It sure is lucky that Gruntilda's spell politely waited for Banjo and Mumbo to leave the house. They got a rare form of Trubbish too? Game plays this happy theme during the death scene of a beloved character. This sad remix of Spiral Mountain is very powerful, and I might even say I like it more than the original theme. Their drill tank was able to reach all the way up to Gruntilda's lair too? Did they hire spiders to work on it? Royston is able to survive long enough until we come back and destroy the rock covering him up. These tunnels disappear after the Klungo fights. Klungo just cut the inside of his mouth on this glass. While this game's soundtrack isn't as good as the first game, it's still pretty good, and I'll remove 15 cents. But just like in the first game, most every song is in the concert C, which sounds almost like a lazy choice. Well then, sorry, but that probably won't happen. It takes probably like multiple weeks to gather up all the Jinjos. And you could always delay it. Specky isn't freaked out by how his door just suddenly opened. They drove their tank up a wall? How? Discount Blastomatic from Donkey Kong 64. Why would you do this? Gruntilda's rhyming was half of what made her such an entertaining villain. She's probably been rhyming her entire life, then adjusted to not being allowed to rhyme quite quickly. Evil Thing is a nickname that's initials or something unthreatening sounding cliche. The laser's being fired almost horizontally, but when it blasts King Jingling's castle, it's going vertically. Does Jingling have a giant mirror floating above his castle? It's kind of a foolish request for Gruntilda. Okay, I guess that's to be expected from her, but they don't need to blast the whole island, considering blasting King Jingling seemed to get them a quarter of the way there. So they just need to blast 3 more people. Bottles' wife is named Mrs. Bottles, so is Bottles called by his last name, or did his parents just decide to give him the same first name as his last name? I can probably see why Banjo is lying about Bottles still being alive, but what does he plan on telling Mrs. Bottles when Bottles doesn't show up for dinner? Sure is lucky that Specky has a secret tunnel out of the village so we can chase these witches. What is that sound even supposed to be? Pofo's minion brought up a good point in his hated character's 2011 version. Gemdros can use all these cells that can access so many different parts of the game's world, yet he doesn't let us use them. Isn't getting back at Gruntilda only one of the reasons we're doing this? We're also doing it to revive Bottles, and stop Gruntilda from blasting the whole island. Muggies sound more like weird rams than tigers. Kazooie is a jerk to her unborn children. I hate these first-person segments. They're way too easy to get lost in. Even in a game that puts a lot of emphasis on comedy like this, I still can't let this slide. Why do they think we'll fall for that old prize just on the open trick? Target sounds a fun fight, but sometimes avoiding his attacks can be a pain. I guess it's fair that Mumbo gets paid for when he uses the spells, but doesn't this literal bonehead care that Gruntilda's going to turn everyone on the island into zombies if he doesn't help us? Mumbo isn't even that fun to play as. He doesn't have as many cool abilities as Banjo and Kazooie, and he can't even climb ropes. I understand he's a skeleton and all, but it's still annoying. I would have much preferred if we could play as Boggy or Wumba. Mumbo's abilities are pretty neat, but the way he activates them looks lame. Kicking this door caused it to open, but kicking this one punctured a hole in it. He walks through the swamp without making any ripples in it. This tunnel looks like he can't fit through it even though he can. Chief Bloatazin is way too big to fit through this door, so he's definitely stuck here. One of the absolute best things about this game is how the levels are connected. That's just brilliant because you almost never see this in these kinds of collectathons. But that can make it hard to tell if you're completely done with a level or not, since it'll say you have everything in it, but you might not know you must do something here to get a Jiggy in another level. Marta from Conker's Bad Fur Day? Kinda disappointing that Slumber doesn't have any dialogue when you take his Jiggy. In fact, he doesn't even wake up at all after this. Did Mumbo just say eat your A word? I kinda agree with Wumba. She's definitely better with magic than Mumbo. However, some of her transformations aren't as inspiring as the ones in the first game. What happens to the Globos when we throw them into Wumba's pool? There's a lot of backtracking in this game. Only one of these hidden signs can actually give helpful information, and even then, it won't do any good if you already saw what was on the Red Jinjo's house back at the panic shot of Jinjo Village. The builders of this platform didn't put in any handrails. Did we just throw the honeycomb where I think we threw it? Who designed these caverns for anyone to go into and drown? And it's one of those Lost Woods levels that are tedious to navigate. These TNT boxes have impossible storage space. I think this dirty looking water would make Banjo and Kazooie both sick, especially since they don't even close their eyes underwater. At the very least, bring some goggles. Head doesn't rhyme with LT or RT. I heard that in the N64 version it made sense since Z stood for Z, but I highly doubt LT and RT stand for that, unless they're going by periodic table abbreviation logic. How will the other TNTs know when we defused one? Sneeze attack. The detonator can blow stuff up, but also cost some of your health. In other words, discount blast mask. I'm just surprised Banjo survives it. Unlike in the first game, which simply lets you change back if you leave an area when transformed, this doesn't even let you leave the area until you go back and talk to Wumba. How long has Canary Mary been trapped in this cave with all these toxic gases, which the game itself even says can suffocate you? How is she still alive? How does Kazooie know that Mary doesn't have a Jiggy? Being able to ride this car isn't as fun as we were expecting, as we have to mash the button while using it. Why do they make her rocket ahead of you if you go too far ahead of her? That destroys the purpose of a fair race since you get punished for going fast enough. Didn't this Jinjo's mother ever teach him not to stand so close to the tracks like this? Too much information! 10 cents for making me think of that! Kinda neat how this Jiggy gets broken up and you put its pieces together, but how do we get them to stick together? Also, Jiggy Wiggy and the first Jinjo and Banjo-Kazooie were sentient, so is this one sentient too? Did we kill it? Great, now they have to remind us of baby songs. Also, he looks bigger than the train that he's inside. Either that or his train was built by the same guy who made Shy Guy's toy box. If you just stay on these platforms, old King Cole literally can't kill you. If it weren't for the time limit, I'd say this guy's almost as easy as Chan from Paper Mario. We saved Dilberta and then she goes through this passageway to Bill's hut. But when we return to Bill's hut, she doesn't come out until after we go through. How are we strong enough to hit these columns so hard that they send the Jiggy flying to the other columns? I'm pretty sure Royston was smaller than that. Mrs. Boggy's kinda creepy. Also, Mrs. Boggy, first Bottles and now Boggy's both a first name and a last name? This game has a needless assault on amusement park food. How does Big Al even make burgers with his rhino hands? I guess that wasn't a bad joke, but how can Banjo even see Big Al's feet? He can barely see over the stand. These cable cars have no walls. I know Gruntoda's evil and all, but is she trying to get sued? Because this is how you get sued. Why do these fake teeth actually hurt us? Why is Jamjo's narrating the sign? Is he the one who wrote it? But I thought Gruntoda read the place. Does Jamjo's work with her? First we have the implications of Mumbo secretly working for Gruntoda. Now this. Now they even imply that our torment towards Gobi was so horrible and traumatizing that it made him grow a beard. That is much more messed up than funny. Gobi's treating us like his friends even though we bullied him 4 times. Are you saying he still likes us? I can imagine Kazooie saying this, but not Banjo. It's hard to see where to jump here. These guys' names are the same sexual innuendos as earlier, and it still isn't funny. Banjo needs this new move because he forgot his admittedly useless claw attack in the first game. Balloon Burst Challenge? Insert Nintendo Capri Sun reference here. I wish they give us a hint of when these rings disappear. These tickets that the Fruities drop are almost as explosion-proof as the new Unicorn doll in Despicable Me. After you pay to enter the Inferno, for some reason it keeps closing and opening again. I didn't pay to have to go in at the right time. Who knew vehicles were lava-proof? Soggy must have been really hungry if she ate not just the fries, but the box they came in. Inferno Kong. 35 seconds of Mumbo's spell. Who charges 4 tickets for 2 people to enter?
Is it just me, or is this the least comfortable couch on earth?
I know that most of this game's adult humor is intended, but the placement of its air hole is so disgusting that I want to give 10 cents. Okay, so it makes sense that hitting his patches makes him shrink, but I think that you didn't need to get rid of all his patches in order to deflate him, since there's still a lot of air coming out of the holes. Discount Pizza Planet. There are 2 missions in Witchy World that have to do with missing children. This bridge is crooked, so it shouldn't be able to fit in the hole that it came out of. I know the phrase Jolly Roger isn't uncommon in pirate-related stuff, but this name still sounds like a ripoff of Jolly Roger Bay from Mario 64, especially when they're both 3D and 64 platformers. Pono's cash register has a button that destroys its glass. Pickles push Trotty into a pool with toxic waste. I know friends mess with each other, but this is just bullying. Did Kazooie not see all this polluted water being dumped into the pool? It's stuff like this that's the reason the term bird brain exists. What's the point of a chimney if you're just going to cover it up with a shock jump pad? After we stop the toxic waste, the water becomes clean within seconds. Banjo must be the world's smallest bear. Jerk move of Jam Judge to have one of his cells in the room that costs money to enter. I'll try to buy the fact that this is now oxygenated water, but that kinda hurts my brain now. And what about the sea creatures here? Can they still breathe? This pool makes the level look much smaller than it actually is. Inkies are annoying to hit with ice eggs. They keep blocking your eggs with their tentacles and can take you like 10 eggs to hit them before you can finally pass. This fish is a lot bigger on the inside than it is on the outside. Was he in an experiment concocted by the guy who made Snoopy's doghouse? Or is he a distant relative of Bowser? This is disgusting. Kazooie can phase through these fish because I guess they're completely separate matter from Breagles. Even though the UFOs open underwater, only a small part's flooded. Do these aliens run on egg power? Maybe the fish didn't do a good job at keeping their password a secret if they write it right above this door. That's name mist. Woman's magic pool or whatever isn't being mixed with the water it's under. They gave her boss this name. Again, I understand adult humor, but I'm giving 5 cents because it'll literally cause kids to get in trouble for saying that word. Did Railroad not realize that slow turning underwater wouldn't make for a good boss fight against this thing? They even show blood in the kids game. How wonderful. And when bumped into while in first person, get ready to rage. And when he traps you in a bubble, have mercy on your soul. Wait, this happens a lot? How does a boss this annoying keep getting defeated? Even though we're back in Glitter Gulch Mine now, they're still playing music from Jolly Roger Lagoon. Despite the size of this pipe, not that much water comes out of it at once. The hag one actually dug under the water. Does it have a button that turns it into a submarine? Because the digger tunnels are no longer accessible after you beat Klungo, the fact that going through this underwater passage now takes you above water becomes strange. Banjo is a jerk to Kazooie. Nope, still don't have a proper new Banjo game yet. This prehistoric area uses trains, and people say the trains out of its area in Spirit Tracks. Younger T-Rexes were currently smaller than humans, yet we're almost as big as a full-grown Stegosaurus. What sadistic psychopath made this Saurosaurus attack us on a skinny platform above a long fall? Something about Stomponodon's name makes me laugh. But is he intending to stomp on us, or is he walking around randomly and happen to keep landing on us? Even though these must be his footprints, he luckily never steps in them again. How did Terry's eggs not break from falling out of the nest? I know it's because dinosaurs were huge, but this nest makes me feel tiny. And she spews mucus at you, that's a lie. Disgusting does not equal funny. Terry didn't believe us when we said we don't have our eggs earlier. Now we tell her again, she suddenly believes us, teasing us into thinking this level has 2 bosses. Apparently dinosaurs can control what they can and can't digest. Just showing someone's butt isn't funny. Again, I understand why adult humor is here, but that joke stunk. Appealing to the giantess community. I take back my claim that the separated moves were uncreative when I did my games I don't like as much as everyone else does list, but a hatching move is where I make an exception. Kazooie can keep a giant dinosaur's eggs warm. Does this Oogle Boogle guy have an enemy named Jack Skellington? There's more than enough room for your last kid. Scrat doesn't look like a squirrel and isn't obsessed with trying to get back a nut. They really did just establish the fact that someone ate poop. The guy who made Mary Poppins' bag must have also made Banjo's bag too. Who knew dinosaurs could breathe underwater? This is just plain child abuse. What does Boggy see in this horrible old hag? There should have been a rule about joke telling that says that you should never ever make your audience feel bad for laughing at your jokes. So here we are, in the Quagmire, because this place didn't have a section called the Peter, Lois, Stewie, Chris, or Meg. Chosen one cliche. The outside version of the song is completely dull and generic. Also, it sounds like a ripoff of Pterodactyl Land's theme. Well, at least we finally got a game soundtrack ripping itself off instead of someone else. It's actually pretty neat that we have to use the train to get into Grunty Industries before we can actually open the door to it. I just wish it wasn't wasted on the level this painful. Janjo's saying you won't need that flea bag on you tricks you into thinking this is a Kazooie exclusive move, when it's actually Banjo exclusive. It's so hard to navigate Grunty Industries. What's this world's cool transformation? A washing machine that shoots underwear. And we're using it to wash dirty clothes. It makes sense since we're a washing machine, but how uninspiring can you get? His clothes come with magic powers that also clean him too. Unfortunately, Washer Banjo can't use the teleport pads. And I'm adding another sin for a really stupid statement I made in my worst levels list, where I said Gruntilda doesn't know Banjo can transform. Seriously, whose butt did I pull that logic from? So yeah, I'm saying this for reminding me of my stupid statement. Banjo can hold on to this despite the rain, which should make Banjo slip off. How did these governors get all the way up here? This game turned into Toy Story 2. These enemies have disgusting names! Not only is it one of these first-person shooter segments that's easy to get lost in, but they literally show poop in a kid's game. And they play farting sounds when you're near them. Trust me, this level really needs a quality control room. This is kinda repetitive. You go to Mumble's skull, switch to Mumbo, go to the electromagnetic chamber, use the Mumbo pad, go back, switch to Banjo, warp to Wumbo's wigwam and change into a washing machine, get back here, and do all that before time runs out. Grunty Industries is so annoying to find your way around that Wildor is the only boss in the game I forgot to face in my playthrough of the game. Maybe it's because of how hard he is to find, but whatever the reason, it's definitely a sin. Earlier we saw Wildor literally dragging himself into the room, but now he can jump around like this. Now they make us think of Kazooie sticking her beak in poop. Why do Gruntoda's minions have wallpaper of one of Gruntoda's enemies? That's almost as crazy as Gruntoda having a picture of us in her lair at Freezy Peak's entrance. I see no teeth marks in that Jiggy, and even if there were some I didn't see, Banjo wouldn't be able to see it from that far, unless he has the classic zoom and enhance eyesight. So I guess this caveman thought Willy Wonka was the one who made that Jiggy. How did Gobi fit through that small hole? The way that note jumped like that actually sounds generic. It sure was nice of whoever broke this pillar to have it fall in the bridge formation. Saberman set up a tent on an island surrounded by lava. Who does that? Even though the lava and the icy side have two different skies, you can still see the red sky above the icy side. What sort of idiot rhymes down with B? Banjo's backpack resists lava now. And how does it protect us if the bottom of it's open? And it can help us breathe underwater. Banjo grabs Dindin while shielded by his backpack without doing anything to expose himself to the boiling water. Also, Dindin's resemblance to Gloop makes it easy for some people to think we're feeding Boggy, one of our friends. Do these aliens think they're Shaggy? Sorry, Boggy, you're doing it wrong. If your igloo is not made of snow or ice, it shouldn't even be called an igloo. We interrupt this game to bring you Lagoon kids from Battle for Bikini Bottom. I never knew coliseums and passageways that take you to other coliseums in the world. This is almost Final Fantasy levels of making it look much easier to go around the world than it actually is. And here's one of the worst jokes in any Rareware game. Killing an innocent ice cube lady isn't funny, and hearing her scream is just horrific. I'm gonna add 10 cents for this joke that's way more scary than funny. Even without having to carry Banjo's weight around, the closest Kazooie can do to actually being able to fly with no limit is just gliding. These Shud's cries are just Governor's cries, just with a pitch raise. I know that's not uncommon, but they don't fit as well with Ice Crystal enemies. Saberman's been frozen so much that Ice Eggs can't thaw him. I think I agree with Mumble for once. Alf's honestly being ungrateful. So now Alf's kids were lost, but if they could just teleport in these 3 spots, they should be able to teleport back. Who the heck is this weird guy in Baytet's badge? Saberman is right. It's pretty amazing that the tent's still up. I'm surprised Chili Billy didn't burn it down by now. Now Alfred's going into the water where he'll die of hypothermia. Unless aliens resist cold water. Now I wish I hadn't saved these horrible creatures. They just couldn't resist torturing Gobi again in a way that Rareware thinks is funny. The train station on the icy side of Hailfire Peaks is completely isolated from the rest of the level. Why? Something looks like it's going to be really awesome but ends up not being very inspiring cliche. Or was that not supposed to be a joke? If so, then yeah, that's a letdown. Our heroes trust these carnivorous plants to not eat them. Good thing whoever put these jelly blobs here knew to do a lot of complicated math in order to put them in the right spot for where people land. And he forgot to take into account how much weight makes a difference in how far you get launched. Super Sash is offended when Kazooie says he only has 10,000 combinations, but not offended when she literally implies that he's stupid. To be fair, even if that was the icy side, George would die anyway. A fall from that height would shatter him into a million pieces, so he was kinda asking for suicide here. The same sadistic psychopath that designed that high platform with the Saurosaurus earlier must have also designed the skinny platform with the Zubba. Why does the cooler looking of the 2 Mumble Skulls in this level have to be the one with the imposter? I guess this was a clever fake out, but it's also the most wasted boss in the game. Instead of taking advantage of the level you're in, it's overall just a bland and uninspiring boss fight. They couldn't even include a remix of this level's theme like they did for all the other bosses. Why couldn't they do that? The beat is even better than it was in the first game, but that buzzing can still get annoying. This minigame isn't that hard. This organ part of the song sounds kinda out of place for being inside a trash can. And now the game literally states that Banjo's sister Tootie has gone missing. It almost feels like all our progress from the first game was undone. I haven't done this challenge, but I've heard horrible things about it with how you have to mash the button faster than you can possibly imagine for an unbearable amount of time. So I'm gonna give this 10 cents. And again, if you go too far ahead of her, she will rocket ahead of you. Just what we need, rubber band AI. The cliche that makes it so you only win if the game feels sorry for you. And you only lose because you're doing what you're supposed to do in a race. And the harder one of the two doesn't even get you a Jiggy. It gets you a Cheeto page. Oh gosh, no. I can't handle a third race with her. Thank goodness Canary Mary says no. Mumbo actually hid this honeycomb piece from us. Are you on our side or not? Bumbo and the Beanstalk. How did Mr. Fit get up here? Candy cane poles. Good thing no one was right underneath this water where they could be drowned. Dippy can hear us from all the way in the sky and can also give us his Jiggy from all the way down on the ground. Do dinosaurs have invisible mail pipes? Banjo doesn't look like the Grinch during this part, and the song Chariots of Fire isn't being played here. And yeah, we beat all 3 of Mr. Fit's challenges by cheating. Draining this now cooled water into the pool makes me realize that maybe the designers of this pool shouldn't have had the water come from Hailfire Peaks. Yeah, only 90 Jiggies, as opposed to the first game's 100 Jiggies. That's pathetic. Now we can turn Kazooie into a dragon, and she can also spit infinite fire eggs now. But that would have helped if those weren't the only eggs we had an unlimited supply of now. If this new puzzle gives us no reward, that pretty much destroys any reason I would have had for doing it. It's pretty much pulling a Game & Watch Gallery 4 very hard mode on us. Could Cauldron Keep have any more of a generic name? And now that he's cloned himself, the fight becomes much more painful. Klungo has a wife named Mrs. Klungo. How many wives have the same last name as their husband's first name in this universe? These witches answer the questions before it's even typed in. Gruntilda just murdered her own sisters, but to be fair, they were dumb anyway. Also, she could have easily dropped one of these taunts on us when we came in. Kazooie was randomly pressing buttons, and she still somehow managed to do what we were intending to do. Why would we need to turn the machine up to full power to revive bottles if we revived King Jingling with less power? Like in the first game, even though the problem's already solved, it's still apparently not a happy ending until we beat Gruntilda. Though, once again, it's better than not getting her comeuppance. Not that that wasn't funny, but you've been in many dirty situations since you were washed, so your excuse is rendered moot now. Even though Gruntilda's sisters are pretty much dead now, she still isn't allowed to rhyme. The fact that the game gives you an option to say that Buggy's a toilet, that is just way too funny. After the amount of times using her magic leaves her vulnerable, you'd think she'd learn from that and not use magic. Why does she even give us a chance to make it so she uses her slow spell? Wait, was that "There He Goes" line supposed to be a comedic take on those tearful goodbye scenes? If so, then I'm sorry, it just felt way too much like a forced joke. What Gruntilda doesn't know is that Bottles isn't dead anymore. What a letdown! I wish Banjo and Kazooie could join the party. Gruntilda deserves this, but it still feels kinda barbaric. And now they promise us a Banjo 3, which never happened, so that's enough for me to give 5 cents.